Hello and welcome to Christmas. I'm Jack Taylor and we're in part 3 of Imagine Christmas. If you missed the first two parts, I invite you to go back and imagine Abraham. As an old man, he came to believe that God could do the impossible and provide a miracle child. Then we imagined Isaac, his son. And Isaac came to believe that despite who he was, despite the family he grew up in, that the promises of God depended on who God was more than who he was. And so he looked forward to Christmas. Today we're going to imagine Jacob. Now, some days you can look at the Christmas story and wonder why certain people are included. I mean, Jacob might be one of those people. From the beginning, he was a weasel, hiding behind his mother's skirts while duping his brother, duping his father out of Esau's birthright. He took advantage of his brother's hunger. He took advantage of his father's blindness to pretend to be who he wasn't. You ever done that? Pretend to be who you weren't? Well, there's a good amount of family discord in this group. There's a need for grace. Now, the amazing thing I see is the blessing his father gives Jacob, despite all that's happening. Grace seems to be a crucial part of the Christmas story. Isaac says, "May God bless you and make you fruitful and increase your numbers to be a community of peoples. May he give you and your descendants the blessing given to Abraham, so that you may take possession of the land where you now reside as a foreigner, the land God gave to Abraham." Now, that's pure grace. Grace is getting the good you don't deserve. But there's more to come. Jacob runs to his uncle to save his own hide, and then he dupes his uncle out of a good number of sheep. But before that, God meets with him as he sleeps at a place called Bethel, which means the house of God. And Jacob dreams about a ladder from heaven with angels going up and down. And God is standing at the top, and he says, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying." Again, the same promise. "Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I'm with you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to the land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." Here's more grace. His descendants won't just number like the stars or the grains of sand, but will be like the dust of the earth. The grace of God includes the promise of the presence of God. Now, his promise won't leave us until the promise is complete. This is what God says. One of our problems is that wherever we go, there we are, in all our brokenness and woundedness. And I'm glad the promise of God's presence doesn't get limited by who we are and how we act that out. Jacob was a wounded deceiver who couldn't escape all the trouble in his family. Mind you, he was a lover who worked for 21 years to get what he wanted once he got to his uncle's. He ended up with 4 women. There were 2 cousins and their 2 handmaidens. And those 4 birthed 12 sons and a daughter. You know the family patterns are going to get deeper, don't you? With that many relationships in a blended family, grace was vital if the Christmas story was going to survive the competitive nature of relationships who wanted attention. Well, on his way back home again after those 21 years, Jacob meets with the Lord and he wrestles. And his name is changed from Jacob the deceiver to Israel, the one who wrestles with God. Jacob calls the place where he wrestles Peniel, which means he saw God face to face and survived. He knew that was grace. Sometimes we wrestle with God over and over. We wrestle over who we are, over what we want. We realize that we got through that encounter because of grace. Well, Jacob then survives the encounter with his brother Esau, and he eventually returns to Bethel, the place where God promised never to leave him. Jacob gets his family to get rid of all their idols. He builds an altar to God, the one who he says answered him in the day of his distress, who stayed with him wherever he went. And God meets with him again, and he says, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you. Are you getting a theme here? Kings will pour out from your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. You know, a place for grace accompanied by the presence of God despite who we are. This is the next truth in the Christmas story, one that many of us might need to hold on to as we move toward Christmas. May God encourage you as you consider his promise of presence and his granting of grace. Imagine a Christmas like that. Join me tomorrow as we imagine Christmas again. God bless you.